Coming up next on The Mikey Martin Show.
Care about what you do. Fight for what you want. Like, you can manipulate and create the world around you that you want to if you're willing to put the time into it, but also recognize that, like, in the moment, you can influence it. Like, you can change and improve, and you can do the thing. You can do whatever you want, but you have to put in the work in and be recognizing of what does it take today to do that. I'll never forget, I called my mom and I was like, hey mom, I need help. Like, what I'm really trying to focus on is I'm only going to be new once here. So what can I learn? What can I experience here as somebody new? It's not about chasing this ultimate fire dream, at least for me. It's about just being really grateful for what I have now.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. I am so excited. Guys, you have no idea how happy I am to finally be on a podcast with this guy. This is a good friend of Keanu Lee, who was on our podcast a while ago. This is Jose Montero. He is the coolest guy, and I'm going to let him introduce himself here. I'm just so excited that he's here. Jose, would you just take a minute, introduce yourself? What's kind of your name, your brand, and your mission in life? Who are you and what are you about?
Absolutely. I'll try to answer as quickly and efficiently as I can. But off the bat, Mikey, just honored to be here and to be on the show. But my name is Jose Montero. A little bit about me and my story. I am the son of Costa Rican immigrants, and I was born then and raised here in Utah. And so I'm Costa Rican American. My background after graduating from the University of Utah in economics, where I studied data analytics and math, I then got into the tech scene where I got involved in sales. My first job was at Google Fiber, helped launch their sales team here in Salt Lake. Then I worked for Podium, where I became kind of an entry-level sales position, worked my way up into sales leadership, and then I carved my own role into enablement, where now I then transitioned to be a senior enablement manager at Sword Health. And so my day-to-day is dealing with training people, onboarding new hires, getting resources for the organization to make sure that everyone there can do their job well. In addition to that, I teach hot yoga. I teach Bikram yoga, which is like 105-degree yoga. It's super intensive. I love it. Over in Salt Lake City. And then on the side, man, I am a hyper nerd. That's what I'll add. Like, I love everything fantasy. I got a white German Shepherd that I'm obsessed with, named Yuki. And so a little bit about me there. My brand, kind of what I'm known for. I'm known for my intention. I'm known for my zeal for what I do. And I'm known for I'm a people person. I love people. I want to make sure that every friend I have feels supported and loved, and every person that I meet, that they feel that same kind of love as well. And so I really hope to always embody those characteristics, whether it's being intentional or authentic. I always hope to bring that into every day. And my mission, I would say where I get the most joy in life is when I help people, help create a space for them to be able to achieve what they want to do in their own life. And I try to do that in my work by creating spaces of education so that people can perform their best work. I try to do that as a teacher by creating a space where people can challenge themselves both physically, mentally, and spiritually to do their best practice for their own growth. And then personally, with each one of my friends and everyone that I know, I really hope that I can be somebody that can help, open doors for them in certain ways, or open up at least a perspective for them. And that's easier said than done. I can't make a career out of it yet, but who knows? So yeah, hopefully that gives you a good breakdown on kind of a little bit about Jose Montero.
Guys, can you see why I'm so excited he's here? Anyway, in the short time that I've gotten to talk with him, I found out he's one of the most engaging individuals I think I've ever met. I mean, just listening to him right there, like, I'm laser focused in because, well, one, he talks very quickly, but two, he has just the most, that he's very authentic. He's a very genuine guy. He's really speaking from his life experience and his heart. And we've kind of talked about his life a little bit, and I'm so happy we get to guys, we could be on here for hours. Jose has so much that he's bringing to the podcast today. So I already know this one's going to go a little long, and I already know that every minute of it is going to be valuable. So
you gotta slow me down though. You know what I mean? Like, I talk fast, but like, ooh.
No, you're just trying to squeeze it in. It's good.
Yeah.
Well, and I want to, guys, let's just expand that a little more before we get into kind of our regular questions. I want to know, can you tell us a little bit, Jose, about where you work at Sword Health, and also about your experience with hot yoga at Bikram and how you kind of got into those?
Yeah. So we'll slow it down and take it back, actually. So at Sword Health is a really cool place. I started there about a month ago, and it is the one of the fastest growing companies in Utah that like nobody knows about. It's really cool if you look them up. But what we provide is digital physical therapy, meaning that we realize that one of the best ways to help treat pain with muscular or skeletal pain is through actual physical therapy. And so the issue is that to actually access a physical therapist, there's a pretty limited supply. It takes a lot of time to go there. And so what Sword Health provides is pretty much a way for individuals to be able to receive the healthcare that they need, to receive the long-term benefits that they need, because physical therapy is very time intensive. It's very labor intensive. And while people want kind of a silver quick solution to get better and find their recovery, typically you need a long-term practice and a long-term focus to be able to improve that. And so that's what kind of Sword Health does in general. And what's interesting is that I started there as an enablement manager. And so, like I was saying earlier, it helps with training and onboarding and that kind of work. But when I'm kind of backing up, when I was about 16 to 17 years old, I had a really bad lisp and I had a bad stutter. And what's kind of interesting is that now my career is very much around speaking and engaging people and being able to, both either sell or teach or engage. And a lot of the work I had to do early on when I was very young was putting myself in very awkward scenarios like public speaking, theater, debate, musicals, all the stuff I did not want to do. Wow. So I could get over this really bad fear of speaking because like I would introduce myself and my name's Jose, but I'd say, hey, my name's Jose. And they'd be like, what's your name? Jose? No, it's Jose, and where I'm really proud that I was able to put in a lot of time and energy where now my entire career is focused around communicating. And so when you say that, Mike, about like, hey, look at how engaging it for me is just makes me really grateful, to be able to have that journey. And then I also teach hot yoga. Hot yoga is awesome. It's 105-degree yoga. You're doing very traditional poses to help work the body from the bottom of your toes all the way to the top of your head. And the goal of that is to really provide a really great exercise, but also a good meditation as well. It's moving meditation is what we like to refer to it as. And so I can dive more into that, but there's a lot to know when it comes to yoga.
I love that. A moving meditation.
Yeah.
Well, and in meditations, people typically just think of their mind and they don't think of ever connecting their body with it, when in reality, you can get an extreme result by connecting the two.
I don't believe that meditation should just be something when you sit still, quietly chanting Om as you close your eyes. Meditation can happen anytime I think you slow down and are more intentional with what you do. You can meditate when you clean. You can meditate when you take notes. You can meditate when you're on a walk, Meditation, I think, is a chance to kind of slow down. But what we try to do in the type of yoga that we practice is we do the same 26 poses in the same order so that you're not having anxiety about what's coming next. But then what that allows you to do is you're then focused on not what's coming next, but then focused on what am I doing in this moment as you go from pose to pose, asana to asana. And that's where we begin the meditation. It's kind of like a hypnosis. And for me, very helpful just to be able to get out of my own head personally.
Guys, you already, anyway, I'm blown away. This is so cool. Guys, there's so much in this. I want to know, Jose, are there reasons that most people typically get into hot yoga, or reasons why people choose not to try it?
Well, not to try because it's hot as heck. That's all I'm gonna say right there. Oh yeah, it's so funny. My girlfriend, I love her to death. Her name's Brittany. Shout out. She is. We've been together for a long time, and she has not come to a single class of mine yet because she's like, I am not going to go into that heat, and so that's normal. It's not for everybody. Sure. But what gets people into it, though, it's kind of interesting. One of them is because of the need to want to exercise in a way that's healthy and safe, because we're not doing explosive motions that you have when you're lifting. Instead, we're developing strength through your own body, using your own body as weights effectively to do this. And so people sometimes want to come to just find a new habit or new exercise routine. For a lot of people, it's about recovery, actually. It's because that's what got me into it. I was super into CrossFit and about a bunch of other kind of workout techniques. I was super kind of heavy. And my friend was like, Jose, you got to come to this class with me. I'm a yes man. I'll say yes to anything at least once. And I showed up and I stayed because it became my active recovery, because I was like, oh, I can get a stretch, I can get a workout for my entire body while I'm in here. It became once a week and then twice a week. And then we'll dive into this more later on, I think. But sure. There's moments where I had a lot of injuries where I couldn't lift anymore. And I really believe that my mental health personally has had a lot to my physical health. And when I couldn't lift anymore, it had a big hit on me. And what got me really into to this type of practice was because I was so in need of doing something. And I forget, I went back to my practice one day and I started doing the movements, and I remember I could actually do the thing again. Like, yeah, I couldn't do push-ups, but man, I could do this now. And it was so game-changing for me. It was so opening for me. And ever since then, I've always stuck with this practice. And then people also love the idea of getting into mindfulness, I think, too. I think yoga is very misunderstood at times, because there is the traditional type of yoga that's very much around flowing, slow poses, but yoga can also be hard and challenging and really force you to be your best self. And so sometimes people try this type of yoga, they're like, oh wait, I love this, when maybe a traditional vinyasa might not be for them. And so I think everyone should try everything at least once, try this at least once, to see if they like it. Because if you do like it, I think you might fall in love.
Perfect answer. That's awesome. I love that. Guys, you can tell that Jose's whole life is built around real results and real practices that he knows creates a difference. I mean, and not just that, but he's throwing in his own knowledge about technology and everything to make a difference. And he knows that the way to make that difference is through personal recovery. I mean, between his work where he's making it so that all of these physical therapy, trainers can actually reach all these people who, I mean, if they don't reach them, it's life altering for them. If they don't actually get the care that they need to actually recover, it ends up impacting your whole life. And like Jose said, when he can do these movements again and everything, your psyche is there, you're back. And it's like, it creates this enablement mentality, and you find a way to keep going. So I'm so excited he's here. I mean, this has been so great so far. I'm so excited because this man is recovery. So anyway, Jose, I mean, and we're going to touch on those, like you said, we're going to touch on them again. I want to know, because is there any other type of recovery besides hot yoga that you really love? And especially like recovery for you, like when you do recovery, I mean, can you touch a little bit more on what's the focus, what's kind of the tone that you do your recovery in?
My relationship with recovery has changed. Like when I was younger, and I've had kind of moments in my life where I was either like, in a depressive state where everything was going really hard. Sure. Or even as I got older, I used to always think that like recovery was going to be this, like, I find a silver bullet, I get it done, and I'm out of there. And that's changed. I really do not believe that recovery is just like one thing you do and then you're done. I believe a lot of it comes down to habits. And being able to recognize that you are going to have downs, you're going to have ups, and the goal isn't to stop the downs. The goal is to recognize that they come. Then how can you best prepare for it? How can you create the right environment and systems around you personally to be able to do that? And so I do it in a few different ways. Number one, I have a therapist. I think everybody should have a therapist. I meet with her every other week. Her name's Sarah. I love her. I like, literally for me, it's like maintenance, because sometimes we're just talking whatever, but then some days I really need help. Another force of recovery is taking time to slow down. And I try to do this all the time, but when you're working all the time, you have school, you have all the needs of your social life coming at you, and that's super common. When do you take a moment to exhale? When you take a moment and you have to plan that might be, for me, a glass of wine and a bath. It might be slowing down and watching a show that I can just kind of hang out and enjoy. Maybe it's planning time with my friends. Another form of recovery is being very intentional with family time. I found that whenever I'm actively engaging with people and I'm getting the support I need to, that's really helpful for me personally. Just spending time with people who you love. That could be, for me, it could be even be my dog, Yuki. She's a white German. I love her. And she's always gonna, like, when you're with her, that's for me, that's recovery for me.
Absolutely.
And then there's also physical practices. So I'm in physical therapy. I have a lot of kind of long-term injuries that I got to deal with now. I love ice baths. That's a huge one. I believe writing is a superpower. If you actually write your thoughts down, slow yourself down, no way to better understand yourself. And I guess the last thing I would say is trying to plan that out in a week. And I don't take it month by month. I try to take it week by week, because I can't look even a month in the future, but I can at least look till Friday. So what am I going to do to plan it? Do Tuesday afternoon? What about Friday afternoon? When am I going to organize that? I think you got to plan it out ahead of time.
I love that. Guys, I just wrote down all this stuff. I want to kind of get into this. I don't know. It's going to be a long podcast. This is so good.
You're going to come to my hot yoga class, right?
Totally.
That's the most.
I'm going to bring a whole group. I've got a special group. It's called the Mikey Club. I bring in, it's usually just for entrepreneurship people. I have a networking party once a month. I bring in a person who speaks, and I want to bring that whole group to hot yoga now, because they're all high level performers and they need high level ways to recover. And I think hot yoga sounds like the way. So, and we're all close enough to, if you guys are in Salt Lake City, that's where you're going to find it. But anyway, I think that's so cool. I love how you mentioned your dog too. I think a lot of people, especially, they get a dog and it is like, I'm probably going to write a book someday called Get a Dog. Because I mean, they help you get some exercise. They help you have kind of a feeling of support. They have you feel like you have somebody there. I mean, and just like all of the things of like, in order to have a dog, you need to have routine in your life, and you need to be able to support the dog. And so you usually support yourself. And it's like, it kind of creates this whole ecosystem of all these healthy things that help humans function well. So I think that's really cool. I love how you mentioned putting your family as a priority, making sure that you're actually planning stuff and intentionally. Guys, every day I have on my morning to-dos, I have a thing that says plan your recovery for the day. So I actually have to write in my planner what my recovery will be that day, because it is too easy to forget to do your recovery, or to forget to slow down, or to give yourself credit for something hard you just did. I also have a thing where I jump up and down 10 times, and, you know, kind of a victory thing, and then give myself a high five, because I need to recognize that I'm sectioning out my day. I did something, I accomplished it, and it's good. And then I can move on to the next thing. And it's not the same as the hot yoga where you're trying to just stay in one spot, but it's trying to help you see that there is progress throughout your day, and that you are accomplishing things. So it doesn't all feel like it's building up as one big thing. So anyway, just some ideas there. I totally agree with Jose on the therapist. You guys hear it enough on this show. It shouldn't be your best friend. It should be your most expensive friend. Jose, I want to know a lot of people here don't have a therapist, and a lot of people are scared to get a therapist. For some reason, there's still a stigma out there that it's for weaker people or somebody who's dealt with something very severe. How do people find a therapist? And, what do you think maybe is the biggest benefit you've had in getting a therapist? You don't have to limit it to one if you don't want.
No, you're good. It's a great question, because it's not easy finding one, actually, because there's a lot of worrying typically. Oh, what if I find a therapist, but then I don't like them, what if we don't connect, and it's vulnerable to be able to share to somebody. And so I totally get why there's some stigma around it. I think the first one is that there are a lot of resources out there. Like for me, I shared with a Google search, I ended up finding an organization called SLC Mental Health. And I was like, I kind of like the brand, and I reached out, and they had a program that was going to work for me. But I know that there's BetterHelp.com, and there's a variety of other even online resources to help connect people with a licensed therapist, that have professional expertise in this. And because what I don't think that therapist is, or therapy is, it's not this, you have 1 or 2 sessions and you're good. I believe it's so valuable to have somebody to speak to that's not going to judge you, we have all this mind chatter always going on in our head, and being able just to talk it out. And the way I use it now is very much like kind of a way to check in with myself, where it's like, okay, I have my therapy session. I have it every other week personally at this point. I used to do it more regularly, but it's that moment for me to say, all right, Jose, how are you really feeling right now? Slow down. Are you doing good? Okay, great. High five. Are you in need of something? Okay, well, let's talk it out. And then you have a space to talk with somebody, and there's no judgment from them. This is their profession to help you. And some of the benefits that I've gotten out of it, man, like not only has it been like tactical ways to improve my own mental health, whether it's the language I use to describe myself, because there's always negative self-talk that happens in people's life, or it could be, honestly, like helping me with my relationship with my family and friends, or it also has helped me with being more patient with myself, kind of recognizing, hey, what I'm feeling is valid. Like it's totally not normal to be stressed out like 24/7 all the time, every day of the year.
Right.
Like that shouldn't be the norm. And for some people, I love the hustle culture, right? Get work done, but like there's a point where you like are stressing yourself out so much that you think, is this the new normal? And it's not. You slow down, take a breath. And so a lot of it too is just asking for help and recognizing that it's not a bad thing to get it. I love it. I recommend it to everybody. So hopefully that helps.
That is so good, guys. Everything I'm not trying to pump him up, but like, guys, everything coming out of his mouth, I think is just a great answer. And I totally agree with it. I mean, if you heard all those benefits that he just pointed out, and you don't have those in your life and you want them in your life, get a therapist, get a professional, make the investment, and watch your life change overnight. It's going to be amazing. Let me see. Writing. You said writing was a superpower, and I totally agree. I think Robin Sharma is a really great example. He says journaling is a superpower. How have you found writing as a form of recovery?
So I used to get mad at myself if I didn't like journal every single day. Like I used to be like, oh, right, I got to journal every day. And now I realize it's not about kind of setting a hard goal. Like as much as I want to, sometimes you just get busy. And so for me, writing is whenever I can, I want to. And the reason why is because it's a simple way to understand yourself. And I love writing a journal, knowing that I'm going to be unattached with whatever gets put on the paper, because sometimes I've gone in my own head of like, what if I put something down for how I feel? And like, oh man, is that really how I feel? And no, it's just good to get something on paper to be able to express yourself. I also feel that writing is also a great way to connect to others. Like you want to make somebody's day, write them a handwritten letter. It could be 2 lines, but like it shows that you're intentional. It shows that you care. And like even I have a new boss who does great work, and on my like 4th week at work, he wrote me a letter, and I'm like, what does that show to you about his character, about their character?
Totally.
And so it's a great tool to slow down, and it's a great tool to show to others that you really care about them. I think it's a great tool to have.
Guys, if that was the only thing you heard on this podcast, that was worth it. Write a letter. I mean, it means so much, and it's universal. I mean, it really does show that there was intention behind it, there was thought behind it, there was effort behind it. That's huge. I don't know of many things. I've always thought of, oh, if somebody does something nice for me, buy them a gift card or buy them a this or a that. And it's like to try and show appreciation, but a handwritten letter, something that actually comes from, your heart, that's powerful.
There's no cost. Like, think about that. Like I actually went to a paper store and actually got nice paper because I love writing them and I want to make it a habit in my life. But like the cost is time. And there's nothing more precious than that. Time and attention. That's all we have to give.
God, I could make like 1 million t-shirts or 1 million like blog posts with all this. This would take over Twitter. This is all so good. Okay, I want to know, Jose, have you ever had, and this might have to do with your hot yoga, it might have to deal with your whole journey. Was there ever a time that you had like a serious breakdown where you didn't recover for a long time, you hit a wall, you went over an edge, and you had to pick yourself back up and really make recovery a focus, and had to come back from that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we all have. I've had more than one for sure, like we're on a journey, we're always trying to get better. Totally. There's one in particular that really had a big impact on my life. So a big priority for me personally is I'm really focused on trying to find economic success in this world. I believe that money gives you choice, and my family, they were immigrants. They're like the kind of the background they came from is just very humble. My father was born on a coffee plantation, and he was able to make it to the US. And that's not, the first or the only immigrant story they ever hear. But for me, a big motivator for me for a very long time, and still is to be able to capitalize on that opportunity that they give me. I feel really grateful for that. But as a result of that, at a very young age, I became very focused about work, about like, how do I want to put in, be responsible, succeed, climb that corporate ladder. And it was going really well for me. I was working at Podium at the time. I love that company. They do incredible work. And I was growing. I was one of the youngest salespeople that they had hired. I became a manager when I was 21 there, and I loved it. I'll never forget. I loved so much the job, the role, everything that I did, to the point though where if you asked me, Jose, how are you doing? I'd say work's going great. Work's going great. And after a while, work became kind of how I was defined. Like it became my success. And there's many issues with that, but like the main issue with that though is that if work is all you have to lean on, and then you don't do well in work, then how do you feel about yourself? And that was a really big moment for me, because I remember I transitioned to a new role, and I had all this incredibly high bar. Everyone knew I was going to do great. I was going to put my head down. I was going to get the work done. But for me, I thought, all right, well, I've super performed in the last few roles. I've done really well. I have this, at least I assumed, and I thought that I had this like perception of what others thought of me, and I'm going to come in and my job is to like blow it out of the water. I'm going to work it. And so I got into the new gig, and I remember I sat down. I was like, all right, I'm going to do nothing but work. And I got in work every day at 6 a.m. I'd finish work by like 7 p.m. and I'd repeat it the next day and the next day. I never forget the end of that first week. I was like, I'm going to have at this point, this amount of deals closed, or I was working in sales at the time, and I didn't. And I didn't hit my first goal. And my mentality was, well, oh shoot, Jose, you got to step it up. You're not working hard enough. Oh man, you're not working hard enough. I got to grind even more. And I put my head down even more. And what I didn't realize that I was doing was I then started skipping lunches. I started skipping working out. I started skipping hanging out with my friends because I'd get home, I'd be so tired that I didn't want to spend time with friends, and then I'd get back to work and I'd keep working. And then, it's like, it's a common metaphor, but you get the axe, and you have, you're chopping down lumber, you're chopping down wood, you keep working and working, and you look back and you're actually just working with the handle, you're hitting it against like, why am I not chopping wood? Am I crazy? What's going wrong? And it's because you got to realize, oh, whoa, you might need a new axe at that point, or you got to sharpen it at some point. And then two things happen at one moment. Number one, it came to a head. I'll never forget like the anxiety that I had, because even though like I remember I scraped by and hit the number that I needed to that month, even though like on paper I did what I needed to, my perception of myself was so bad. I thought I was not performing. I thought I wasn't doing well. My managers, my leaders are like, Jose, you're doing the right things. Don't be so hard on yourself. I'm like, they don't know my aspirations. They don't know what I'm trying to do. And instead I decided to work even harder. I want to put my head down even more, but it got to the point where I didn't even realize it. But like, I like changed within like a 2-month time frame, where I was known for being kind of more energetic, always bouncing around the office, helping people develop. Instead, it's like, where did Jose go? Well, I'm at my desk, calling, doing the work that I need to. And I didn't realize that like, oh, I was really going down a rabbit hole, where I think like 2 months in, I had a moment where I was in the mirror and I started having, because depression, I've always dealt with depression in my life. It's always been a thing. I've always had like mechanisms to do with it. And it's
something
common.
A lot of people don't like to talk about.
Oh no,
I love that you're getting into this.
Yeah, no, it's super real though. Like I think it's heretical. I think depression is at some point, even genetic. And not to just give credit to that, but I do think like for me, it's always gonna be part of my life, and I recognize that now. But at that time, I got so low where I remember my just anxiety felt so bad, where I would wake up just filled with anxiety to go to work the next day. And I didn't want to do the work. And I was like, why do I hate this? This is what I wanted. I was doing the work that I wanted to do. What happened? And then at the same time, I tore my labrum, which is what got me into yoga. And I remember I tore my labrum really bad out of this whole series. And for me, I loved lifting. I loved always lifting. Like I've always enjoyed like being the person at the gym that like I did CrossFit. I was one of those guys, you can imagine. And I like wanted to be the first. I want to get the time on first. I was always super competitive, super passionate about whatever I wanted to do. I'm a very all-in guy, if you can't tell, whatever I want to do. And I tore my labrum, and then like I was like, okay, well I can't lift anymore. I can't do my pull-ups anymore. Well then let me go running instead. I started to go trail running my first time. Twisted my ankles super bad. I couldn't even walk or like do squats, the next week. And so here I am, not able to work on, not able to lift. I'm like, what am I doing? And I felt so bad. And that was the moment where I had to look into the mirror and I had to recognize, Jose, if you keep going down this pathway of self-destruction, you are a snake that's eating its own tail, but not in a way of eternity, in a way of self-destruction. And if I did not ask for help at that moment, I was going to, I don't want to think about where that could have led to, but it was bad. And I called my mom up. I'll never forget. I called my mom and I was like, hey mom, I need help. Because I knew she was going to be more than anybody in the world was going to move mountains. Even though I didn't want, I knew for the fact that whatever she was going to get involved with, I did not want to have her. I knew that she was going to go above and beyond, but that mom way that's like super caring, but yeah. I needed it. And she's incredible. And she's so loving. And I'm so grateful to every power that is to my mom. And a few things happened to help me kind of get out of this, right? To kind of recognize, number one, I had to ask for help. That was a big one. Recognize that, hey, I'm in a position where I'm not setting myself up for success anymore. What do I need to do to slow down to be able to actually speed back up? And that's where I started really figuring out, okay, what do I need to do to develop the habits that I need to? So I got into therapy. I recognized that I need to find another way to work out, because if I just sat still, I was going to decompose. And so I remember I went to my first hot yoga class being so scared. I'm like, oh, my injury's not going to let me into. And that's why I love Bikram. Bikram is designed to be able to help anybody at any body, anybody at any type. And there's a moment where I remember I did that first exercise, and in recovery and healing, part of what helps joints heal is movement. Actually, people think you sit still when you injure it. No, that's incorrect. You need blood flow. You need to get things moving. If you stay stiff. And when I'll never forget, I did that first movement and it was like an emotional release. I cried that day so much, man. Like it was a moment of just like the ability to be able to move again, to lift again. And so that started helping out. I remember I talked to my boss and hey, here's how we're really feeling. And they're like, hey, by the way, we need somebody to be able to do this role that we don't have when it comes to like onboarding new hires. You'd be perfect at it. And you know what? And I said yes to that. And what was just interesting was the moment that like I almost recognized that I needed help was when every opportunity began to open up, whether it was through my own practice, whether it was at work. It was like the universe needed and knew, thanks to God, that whatever, like that, I was in a position to actually receive what I needed to receive. And it actually started landing up that way. And so I'm going down a rabbit hole here, my friend. You got to slow me down. But
No, I don't even want to stop you. I'm
yeah.
loving this. I think it's real.
Yeah.
I'm writing down notes like crazy.
But it was a super hard moment though. And I had to really figure out how to pick myself back up. And I'll tell you, it wasn't an overnight thing. It wasn't like, I need help, please come here. It like, I remember I felt like I was me again, and if you've ever been depressed, I think you'll relate to that. Like I felt that moment of like, I'm back, Jose's back, it was probably like 5.5 months later, 6 months almost of consistent work where I was like, all right, I need to start my practice once again. All right, let's start moving. I need to start, socializing again. I need to put myself out there again. I need to start doing these things. And at the beginning, God, I did not want to do that. I hated it. Like this was uncomfortable. It'd be so much easier to go home, go in bed, crawl up, just try to fall asleep and wake up the next day. But no, it was all right. I need to put in some work. I need to put in the hours. And a lot of that was going to be habits. And so it was right then, was like, let me actually back up. Some of the things I started doing was every day I had to force myself to go outside for a walk. Every day I forced myself to actually write down and sit down and write and read. Every day I decided to actually eat a proper meal. I forced myself to actually take breaks throughout the day because beforehand I didn't do that. And I was surprised just by eating and sleeping and just getting sunlight, what that did for me. And then months later, I looked back and I was like, oh my gosh, look how much I grew. But like on the way, I would never have seen that happen. But you look back, then you can actually see how far you've come. And it was so worth it. And now the way I approach it is I don't ever want to feel that way again. I know it's in my system. I know it's going to be easy to fall into that. Like, it's not like I don't have anxiety to this day. Like it's normal with anything. But I do recognize that in order for me to avoid that, I need to put the systems and practices in place so that I can at least have a safety net for myself. That's why I have my own physical practice with yoga. That's why I put myself in work environments that I feel like I'm going to be able to succeed in. That's why I surround myself with people that I love and make sure I'm always connected with them so they know, hey, there's a red flag. Jose can go down there. So I need to make sure I have somebody that can help me. And then therapy, of course, too, and all the little things that I mentioned before, but it's real. And that's why recovery is so important. And recovery is never going to be a silver bullet. But if you find the systems that can help you, I found what worked for me. It makes a huge difference. But it's not like a one day night thing. That's the one thing I'd have to say about that is it has to be about the habits that you develop. And you have to put in the work again and again. If you fail, that's okay. Just try again. Because you can't, nail it 7 out of 7 days every time in a week. But if you could do, one good day out of the week, celebrate the heck out of that. And then do a little bit more, then maybe a little bit more. Then maybe you have a back up, then you do it again, and then you keep going.
Guys, the thing that I love about this entire story is look at where it started. It started with Jose's looking at his heritage and how, his family are immigrants. Some of the greatest things that ever happened to this country are immigrants coming in with their wonderful, humble, hardworking culture. That's what built America. And the fact that he's sitting here going, I'm not wasting my shot. And the fact that, and I want you guys to recognize, he was doing recovery, and then he got into the fast lane and he starts going faster and he starts building his momentum. And the thing you guys got to realize, because often we talk about momentum, right? At least that's our new topic, how recovery can help with momentum and building that. Recognize that once you build up enough momentum, it's really hard to turn and it's very easy to crash. And the thing is, it's great. I love that he keeps using the term slow down. Because the thing is, when you really do slow down, you can make that next turn very properly that you wouldn't even see coming if you're going too fast. And that's where you win the race. You keep going round and round. I wrote down in here, it says, I wrote down your expectations get distorted because the thing was he got to where he was so successful. He was killing his goals, but then he wasn't happy going to work. I mean, how many people start going to the gym and their body looks better, but then they get this kind of body dysphoria and they start thinking about all the ways they are unsatisfied with their body. And it's like, if you're willing to slow down and go to recovery and recognize your progress and write out things, I mean, it's such a healthy climb, guys. It can be so, so good. What else did I put in here? Calling your mom. Oh my gosh, guys, that shows who Jose is on the inside, because the thing is, deep down, he knew when it got down to it, what was the high level decision that he had to make for himself that he didn't even want to do. And more importantly, he made it. He called his mom and he said, I need help. And the fact I'm guessing that that's the breakthrough where you learned how to ask for help. I mean, guys, that is such a breakthrough, and it's one that should be celebrated. Like you said, celebrate it, celebrate the heck out of it. I mean, get excited that you learned how to say, I need help, because those people are the people that you see that are so successful that you want to be like them. They ask for help all the time, and they probably ask for it. I mean, more than you'd guess. And so anyway, one other thing that I love how you said was you need to slow down to go faster. I mean, if you guys know how to think like that, you're a high level performer. You know, even back to the race cars. If you slow down and you gear up, you can suddenly take off that much faster, but it's because you took a second to slow down so that you could make the gear shift. And Jose, you keep getting into habits. I think I want to know what you mean when you say, if you can create the habits, and I'm assuming it's habits around recovery. What kind of habits do you have, or what kind of habits do you practice that you think are the life-changing ones that you use?
Yeah. Because habits are important. I think your thoughts and your intent become your words become your actions become the life that you live. It's very manifested that way. And we each have a really unique superpower, in my opinion, that you can create the life you want to live. You can create the world you want to be in, but it's not an overnight thing. It's about, well, how do you speak to yourself? How do you wake up every day? What do you do? And so habits for me are, I refer to them almost as my own practice. Like, what am I practicing each day? Because it's never going to be perfect, but if I can at least do a little bit of practice every time, it's going to get better. And so I would break down habits in a few different ways in the context of recovery. One that I worked on for a long time and I'm still working on, like I'm definitely not perfect at this, is my own mental talk, my own self-language. Meaning, like, how do I refer to myself? How do I refer to those I love? What type of language do I use? And catching myself if I ever say something potentially like negative, and especially for myself. And I've suffered with mental health issues and other things like that. I've had to be very cognizant of, like, all right, well, that's actually a really bad pattern that I keep using to put myself down for whatever reason, for like no benefit. Let's catch myself on that. Let's work on that. And how do I work on that? Well, I need to verbalize that. I need to make sure I should know and recognize, oh wait, that's a loop that you're in, and doing it again and again. I'm a big fan of Post-it notes or visible reminders in front of you. A mantra in meditation is for the purpose of removing mind chatter. So if you have one or two things that you can focus on to repeat, it helps. And so in yoga philosophy, there's this word called ahimsa, and ahimsa means no harm. It's one of the kind of the laws of being a yogi. And ahimsa, in terms of no harm, is not only to others and plants and animals, but also to yourself. And so for a while, I had on my computer desk, I'd open it up, sticky note, ahimsa, because that really resonated for me at the time. And so those habits, a big one I think also is in terms of when you plan out your week, right? So for me, I have to make sure I'm scheduling out my exercise when I'm working out, when I'm doing my PT, or I'm going to go to the yoga room, be able to roll my mat out and do that. And that means, all right, what does practice mean for that? Well, that means consistency. You'll get more benefits doing 15 minutes of yoga a day than 1 hour once a week. I can guarantee you, I can promise that. And it's the same thing in most things, right? So how can I add 15 minutes of that every day? And so, like, when I wake up, do I pull up my phone, look at social media and get lost in the mind numbiness of it? Or do I wake up, go on a small walk outside and then read a book, And so those are examples of habits. And I never try to view it as like, you can't view it as where you want to get to, what's the ideal world. Because if you start with the end in mind, you'll be really focused on that before you get there. Instead, I focus on, what am I doing today? All right, I did that, great. The next day, what am I going to do today? Awesome. And then you'll develop that way, you'll grow that way, and you'll realize that your thoughts, your patterns, the way you act and behave, that will change and evolve as well. But you have to take it step by step. You can't be thinking, I need to become this perfect yoga master. I need to become, this huge bodybuilder, that can deadlift, 6 plates on either side. Instead, it's, all right, what am I doing to improve again tomorrow and the next day? And then you'll hit those big goals. But I do think it's easy to get fixated on the endpoint rather than what you're doing in the moment.
Totally. Well, and that goes back into your philosophy of just planning out this week, and also kind of the hot yoga. What am I doing in this moment? And I think that's so big. I mean, especially with his habits. I mean, you guys, if you've read Atomic Habits, you think of habit stacking, you just know what the next thing you're doing is, and it gets rid of all this resistance to these very, very healthy, productive things that you do, your practices, your habits. And so anyway, I think that's huge. I think that self-talk so many people they never really learn about that, and they don't even recognize that they're doing it. Was it your therapist that helped you learn about self-talk, and
100.
kind of your practices around that?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think my therapist did a great job just helping me recognize it. I think that's the hardest part initially, is how do I recognize when I've done something like that? And a really common one for me is just putting myself like down naturally. I want to be a top performer. I have really high expectations for myself. Everything I do, I want to be the best at it that I can be. I want to be proud of that. But at the time, if I don't meet that expectation, then there's sometimes language like, "Oh man, that was so dumb. You could have done better than that." Or maybe you say something, you're like, "Oh man, I shouldn't have said that. That was so dumb," and a lot of it is recognizing that, you know what, no, wait, that's like, would you talk to your best friend that way? Would you let your best friend talk to you that way? No way. No way. And so a lot of it is recognizing, oh wait, pause. What did I just speak to myself? What did I just think to myself? Would I say that to somebody that I care about? No way. Okay, I need to recognize that. And so step one is just recognizing that you have it, that it happens. And from there, then you can start to course correct. But if you don't recognize it, it's really hard to know how to fix it.
I have a question, because I heard a practice once where they said, hey, and it actually goes, if you guys have seen I think it's called Luca, it's a Disney film, but he talks about Silencio Bruno, and it's just quieting that fear in his head and things like that. I had a teacher once that taught me, they were saying that one practice that they really liked, basically just finding the name of somebody that you would never take advice from. And you name your self-doubt or your self-bad talk, whatever, that same name. And then anytime you recognize that happens, you're like, shut up, Bruno. Like, and you just kind of talk back to it a little bit, which I have a little bit of a problem with giving it an identity, but at the same time, it is good. I mean, you have to know it's there and that it's a real thing that you can act with. You can tell it, what you're actually going to do. And I think you're so right when you say that positive self-talk is it's so important. I mean, not just talking down the bad, but really, filling your life with that good, positive self-talk. Is there any specific positive self-talk that has been really influential for you?
Absolutely. We are not our own thoughts. That's what I always remind myself. We are observing all these different ideas. Our brains meant to just recognize and accept these patterns. And I don't want to just dive into yoga philosophy, but there's this idea of chitta, which is like, you have all these little things that come up. And so like what happens that we see this one idea that we just like, we cling on to it, but instead it's like, no, it's let them float by, all the good and all the bad, because it's not you, but it is part of you though. And so positive self-talk that I do a lot of, you can be super cheesy with it. I love being cheesy. Like one is, this is like mine right now. Like this is legit, like my mantra in the morning, but I wake up and I'm in the mirror. I'm like, all right, Jose, you are an executive. You are confident. You were hired. And what you do is to be at a high performing level to make decisions that will impact thousands. I tell myself that because that's what I want to be. That's what I want to do. Other examples of that is remind myself that don't take myself too seriously. Like whenever I'm getting super heavy, super just like in my own head, hey, be light, have fun, because end of the day, you have to live with yourself, and it could be no matter what's going on, it could normally be worse. And so just laughing at myself, I think is super important to recognize, like, hey, don't take yourself so seriously, step back, enjoy, and recognize that tomorrow it's going to be a brand new day. And so I always try to level set with myself in that regard of like, hey, you know what? It's all good. Don't be so serious, have fun, smile with it. And lastly, I would say, I just put myself in the head. So my best friend, his name's Jeremy. He goes by Poison Grace. He's incredible. And because he's a drag queen in Salt Lake, and I love him. And he is one of my best friends because he like hypes you up no matter what, you know what I mean? And he sees you and he's like, hey, you look beautiful. You are looking amazing. You are killing it. And everyone loves him because he's always bringing kind of this positivity around. And so I sometimes tell myself, okay, if I had like somebody like him with me right now, if I had him with me, what would he be saying right now? How would I amp myself up right now? And so it's all that cheesy stuff, but like, it might not matter, but you'd be shocked by what happens if you repeat it again and again and again, because the next thing you know, you become that, you really make an impact on that. So those are a few things.
Well, and guys, the fact that Jose is hanging around people who are hyping him up, I mean, when you hang around a support group that really that is uplifting, I mean, frankly, your words have power and other people's words have power, and your words can uplift somebody and your words can uplift you. And I think hanging around people that are just going to be that uplifting spirit around you, it's a game changer, guys. It's going to change the way you start talking because you hear it so much. I guarantee that as soon as Jose is done hanging out with his friend, what was his name again?
Poison is the best way to
Poison.
refer to him.
There you go. As soon as he's done hanging around Poison, he's totally going to be going around people and telling them, you know what, that's okay. You're great. You know, it's a thing it's kind of contagious, this positive outlook on life. Well, and something I thought that was so funny was that you were talking about, we are not our own thoughts. And I think, guys, just from my experience dealing with any kind of depression, I think that's a thought that you learn going through any kind of depression. We are not our own thoughts. I think a big thing, at least for my experience with depression, and Jose probably, I assume you'd agree with this, it's you really get stuck in your thoughts and you really kind of get sucked into your brain, and you aren't living on the outside and you're not looking at yourself from kind of a, an outward, view, but you're really just sucked in. And you kind of get that negative feedback where you're just over and over that, oh, you're stupid. And then it's, yeah, why would you want to even succeed? You're just going to fail. And it's just all that negative self-talk, which leads us to negative self-action, which just confirms to yourself again that you're a loser. So I think that is such a huge point, that we are not our own thoughts, guys. And the fact that he pointed out that wonderful, wonderful life, kind of just that the yogi, where he was saying, these thoughts can go by and they can go by, all the good and the bad. I think it is it's a standard that experienced, well-educated minds have to be able to talk and discuss a topic without forming opinions on it. And I think, of course, eventually you're going to form opinions, but the point is to be able to look at information just for what it is. No judgments, just look at it. I mean, observe, and then see where it fits, and if you don't have an opinion yet, great. At least you've got that information and it can fit in later. But the fact that you don't make it a judgment call right away, it leads to this. I mean, kind of like if you guys have ever read Principles by Ray Dalio, he's very big about being radically open-minded. And I think that kind of reflects that. So anyway, well, in bringing up Ray Dalio and Principles, I know that we have some book suggestions, guys. I asked Jose if he had some books, and he's like, I'm going to look these up. I'm going to make sure they're ready. Jose, what are some of those books, and what do you think about them?
Oh, I got so many. I love, there's so much we can learn in this life, and so why not learn it all? A few books that helped me specifically in the context of recovery. Number one is going to be The 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. It's just very simple. It's the idea of it is these Toltec or Aztec, super short books, just about how to view yourself and how to view the world. And I think it's just simple, powerful. It's like an afternoon read. Braving the Wilderness by Brene Brown had a big impact on me about understanding how to stand my own ground, my own sacred ground, and had a huge and change. Anything Brene Brown has, I think is really popular and really great. I'll give 2 more. Greatest Salesman of the World by Og Mandino. It's not a book about sales. It's a book about habits. And it helped me out a ton when I was at my lowest. It's just like, how do I approach gratitude? And how do I approach gratitude every day? And so love that book. Read it so many times. And last one is Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. It's a kind of a cool story. It's a classic one of the kind of the improvement community, but that one is just really good evidence of how incredible the human soul is to achieve marvelous things. And so those are a few books that in this context has really made a big difference for me.
Jose, if you write a book, what's it going to be about?
Oh, it would be, man, if because writing books is a powerful thing, right? It's a powerful statement. And it lasts, like what's powerful about a book is that you become like not only the expert typically in that field, but like you look back in history, what do we hold on to? It's the stories and the writings of people who put them down on paper and nothing else really. And so that's the power of a book. I would say if I had to put a book down on paper, it would be about being present and being still, and the value of being here now, to quote Ram Dass, and the value that there is a beautiful life that we have around us that we can experience and enjoy and control and invest in. But we sometimes get so focused on where we want to go and obsessed with where we were before that we don't take a moment to take a deep inhale and slow that exhale down and just recognize, oh, what is around me in this moment? What can I enjoy? And so it'd be a book about that, probably with like analogies and historical algorithms, not algorithms, but historical metaphors too. Something like that, I think.
And then the follow-up would be hot yoga, a hot mess, or just something here.
No, seriously, like there's so many things that you can practice to just help you gain mental discipline too. And so totally hot yoga, hot mess, Diary of Jose Montero, that could be a good one too. So that's a great name.
Guys, there's so many things I want to get into with Jose. I mean, just so many topics that he has such good opinions on. He's really taken a deep dive into recovery in all sorts of things. And I wish we had more time with it. And we're definitely going to have him back. And guys, I'm going to have him working with me. I've got a mentor program where I've got some people that I'm helping with leveling up in life and things like that. And frankly, I'm going to have Jose helping me out with that, because guys, when you don't deal with the own traumas that you've had in your past and you don't recover from those, it, like he said, with the therapist, like you have all these things going around in your head and it doesn't leave space for you to develop as a person, because you're still dealing with all this garbage that's weighing you down and filling you up. And you need to kind of sort and organize and, deal with your past. And it's a beautiful, wonderful thing that takes real work. It's not those 2 sessions with the therapist, it's years, and it's a beautiful process. And frankly, it's probably the most progress any of us ever make. And so if you really, really want to level up, like he said, start dealing with your past, start really doing that real level up work. It's that great work that all, everyday heroes do. And so anyway, as we're wrapping up here, I want to ask Jose 2 questions. And the first one is, Jose, what's a big lesson in your life that you're learning that is impacting you, or maybe just a big lesson that you've learned in life that you think is just spectacular?
I think I've hit on a lot of them so far, because everything I've shared today
on some amazing ones.
Yeah, because I want to lead the best life I can, and what I found that I'm working on recently is that to enjoy that, it's not about chasing this ultimate fire dream. At least for me, it's about just being really grateful for what I have now. And like, for example, I'm starting a relatively new at this new job. And like, what I'm really trying to focus on is I'm only going to be new once here. So what can I learn? What can I experience here as somebody new, rather than trying to get to the end outcome of like, all right, what's everything I want to accomplish? Because if I do that, I get caught up. Then I don't think about what are the 1 or 2 things I can work on in the moment and today. And so I would say that's something I'm really working on, is how not to get caught up with tomorrow and focus now. It's super hard. It's a lot easier said than done. But I'm working on that every single day to try to just be more cognizant. I want to make sure that every time I'm with like a friend or a family, that I'm with them in a moment, not thinking about something else. And so it's just super common for that to happen, I guess.
I love that. And I think that's, anyway, it's a huge lesson. And guys, you would never, ever think of that if you didn't take time to be still. You would never think, oh, I'm only going to be new here once. What's something that I can, what's the experiences that I can have as someone who's new? I mean, I think that is just, it's such a wise and insightful perspective. And then he's going about life with this new lens, this new intention of, how do I do this as the new guy? And that's just like, oh, guys, it's a great way to live. And it's a great way to be grateful too, because you really just start noticing where you're at and how fortunate you are and what your opportunities are. Let me ask you, Jose, kind of last question here. If everybody in the world was going to watch this, and they all got to watch this last little part, what's your message to the world? What's something that you feel like everybody should hear in their lifetime?
I would say that, firstly, care about what you do, give a damn, fight for what you want. I'm so surprised how much the intention of your subconscious matters more than what you say or do. And if you really care about something and you fight for it, like it's just shocking, the opportunities before you. And then secondarily, I know I feel like I'm a broken record at this point, but it is like, you can manipulate and create the world around you that you want to, if you're willing to put the time into it, but also recognize that like in the moment, you can influence it. Like you can change and improve, and you can do the thing, you can do whatever you want, but you have to put in the work in and be recognizing of what does it take today to do that? What does it take today? And so that would be my main message. I bet it's going to evolve over time, and I hope that it helps.
Man, as soon as we have you come back, I'm going to ask you what your new message is, and I'm going to be even more blown away. Guys,
it's going to change.
This was amazing. Jose, anyway, I need to write you a letter. I need to write you a big thank you letter. So, I mean, that was just, it really, guys, with this episode, our podcast just leveled up. So this is the beginning of something new. Anyway, I'm so happy we had Jose on here. I'm so happy. We are going to have him back just because he has so many more insights that we didn't even get into. If you guys haven't been to hot yoga, go. If you don't have a therapist, get a therapist. And remember, life can be great and you can overcome any depression or anything that you're in right now. Talk positively to yourselves. Guys, if you want to connect with Jose, all of his links are below. I'm going to put the links of, his work and also his hot yoga so that hopefully you guys can go check that out and have that change your life like he's had his change. Jose, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.